You're watching ABC 13, Houston's news leader. Live with Tom Cook, Minerva Perez, Casey Curry, and Don Nelson. This is 13 Eyewitness News This Morning, Houston's news leader.
Thousands of Hurricane Katrina evacuees here in Houston are waking up without electricity because of a miscommunication, they claim, between them and the city. The city of Houston says it sent out notices to evacuees weeks ago, telling them that government-paid electricity was coming to an end. Now about 1,800 people are out of power this morning. Some evacuees claim they didn't get the warnings, but city officials say all of them were told to put utilities in their names or they risk being shut off.
This is not the city's program where the city is shutting off utilities. This is a law that we're having to obey, basically. We were allowed by law to continue to pay utilities for 1 year.
And I'm willing to pay. But nobody told you? Nobody told me. I just found this out when I picked my daughter up from school, came inside, and the lights was out.
And officials say more evacuees could lose their electricity through February of next year if they don't put those bills in their own names.
From KPRC, you're watching Local 2 News at 6.
Well, 1 year after Hurricane Katrina drove thousands of people to Houston, many evacuees now have some new problems.
CenterPoint has started cutting off power to some of those customers. KPRC Local 2 reporter Chris Gutierrez explains what's next for those evacuees.
We got shops and stuff of that nature.
At many apartments throughout Houston, the food is starting to spoil. That's because the first wave of Hurricane Katrina evacuees who haven't transferred utility services into their names are now in the dark.
We thought we were coming here for safe haven, but it's just been tough.
FEMA gave the city of Houston money to pay for evacuees' power for 1 full year, and now the government says they should pay for their own.
Reliant has had to begin shutting off power because FEMA will not pay 1 day beyond the deadline extension.
So utility providers across Houston are contacting CenterPoint Energy to cut off power. The city sent out warning letters, but some evacuees say they can't afford to pay a deposit to turn it back on.
Everybody could not meet the time, you know, and it's because of job situations. And they're saying like we're not looking for jobs. No, that's not true. You know, a lot of us are looking for jobs, and a lot of us work.
This just was wrong for them to do this to us. You see what I'm saying? It was wrong.
Jean Bailey says without power, her aquarium won't operate and her fish are dying. She wants to get a job to turn the power back on, but says she can't find one. Just putting food on the table has been tough, and what these families have, they don't want to waste.
I got 2 boys that have been going to the unemployment agency every day, and they don't, when they say New Orleans, they don't want to give them a job. We need jobs.
The city of Houston is trying to help. They've even set up a website. On it, you'll find a list of power companies, some of whom are willing to waive deposits. For a link to that website, visit our website at click2houston.com. In Southeast Houston, I'm Chris Gutierrez, KPRC, Local 2.
From KPRC, you're watching Local 2 News at 4.
Hundreds of Katrina evacuees lined up today to sign up for more help from FEMA as the deadline for funding fast approaches. FEMA funding will end for all eligible evacuees on October 31st unless they follow the recertification process. FEMA reports only 25% of the 24,000 eligible households have already signed up, but hundreds more signed up at today's workshop.
But we felt like, based on the recertification rate, that maybe the message just hadn't gotten out. And we're finding today that's true. If you ask the evacuees, many of them didn't seem to know that they needed to recertify.
FEMA suggests that evacuees recertify immediately in order to allow processing time, which on average is taking about 3 weeks. Coming up on our news at 6, we'll hear from the evacuees who still need help getting back on their feet.
Now, live, Local 2 News at 6 o'clock.
A key deadline nears for Katrina evacuees, including those living in Houston. Good evening, I'm Jerome Gray.
Hello, I'm Dominique Saxa, in for Wendy Corona tonight. October 31st is the last day that people receiving FEMA funding can get recertified. And today, hundreds of people who still need financial assistance took those steps to make sure that that help does not end in the next few weeks. Local 2 reporter Mary Benton joins us live now from Southwest Houston with this story you'll see all new at 6 tonight. Mary?
Well, earlier today, the line was wrapped literally around the building, but because of the overwhelming response, there are now fewer people. They cut off the line at 4:30. So what you have now really just a handful of people waiting inside, but probably dozens more inside. And officials tell us that the need in the community is still so great. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people lined up for a Katrina Housing Assistance Workshop. As the crowds grew larger, police tried to keep traffic moving and the crowds calm.
Just ridiculous. So I'm just leaving. So I just faxed my paper off to FEMA, rather than deal with this chaos up in here.
Come this way, please.
Once inside, the waiting continued, but eventually people armed with stacks of paperwork met face to face with a caseworker.
Well, we were finding out the need is great because the message went out just yesterday.
They are trying to get recertified for housing assistance.
From Houston's news leader, this is 13 Eyewitness News.
Katrina evacuees are getting another break from the federal government. The August 31st deadline for housing help is now gone, and a new deadline is a big help to everyone involved. Eyewitness News reporter Tom Abrams is here with the good news for evacuees. Tom?
Melanie, this week's announcement that the feds will pay for another $1 billion of Katrina housing costs came as a surprise to most who expected that by September they would be on their own financially for the first time since the storm hit New Orleans.
Katrina made a dramatic change of my life.
Wanda Martinez has had a rough 18 months. First, Katrina forced her from her home, and then her husband was injured on the job. They need every month they can get to get back on their feet.
To be honest, FEMA doing a great deal for me, and I'm sure other people too, because if it won't be for FEMA, I wouldn't know where to turn.
The Martinezes and 11,000 other families in Houston think the announcement is a big relief. Now, instead of rent money running out in just 4 months, it will keep coming through March 2008. And then rent will begin at just $50, increasing $50 per month until March 2009.
We were quite surprised.
Cindy Gabriel is with the City of Houston's Community Settlement Task Force. She says it is great news for evacuees and for program administrators, giving them both extra time to get things running smoothly.
This is a time to accumulate the things that you have lost from Katrina.
In fact, they need to send in a letter that they intend to stay in the program. They have until May 31st to do just that, and if they do, evacuees get that extra time to set their finances and their lives straight.
Tomorrow is not promised for anyone because I'm in New Orleans one day, and then the next day I'm here by no choice.
Katrina evacuees who still need help can always call the City of Houston at 211 to find out the latest information anytime and to get the newest government forms. You can always go to our website, abc13.com, where you'll find a link to the city's hurricane recovery site. And coming up at 6, we'll explain the logistics of how this extended program will really work and how that money will really flow. Tom Abrams, 13 Eyewitness News.
Experienced reporters providing perspective you can trust. This is 11 News at noon.
16 months after they evacuated into Houston, Katrina survivors are getting some rather interesting advice. A newly released videotape is offering them pointers on thinking and acting like Houstonians. 11 News reporter Doug Miller has checked out the video and talked with the producers who hope it will help people who lived through a hurricane live in Houston.
Seeking shelter from a storm in Houston was not easy. But it's estimated about 80,000 Katrina evacuees in Houston are still seeking jobs.
I don't think we're in New Orleans anymore.
And that's what this is all about.
If I only had a home.
A job.
Car.
An oyster po' boy with cheese.
This video, produced by Houston's city government, teaches Katrina survivors about surviving in Houston.
Now that you're here in Houston looking for work, you should think of yourself as a Houstonian, not a homesick New Orleanian.
Well, there is a difference. There's a difference with every city in this country. We have our own ways of approaching things.
Your number one job now is to get a job.
Evacuees cast in the video offer all sorts of tips for finding work in Houston, like getting phone numbers with Houston area codes.
An employer does not want to hire somebody who is not going to be here permanently. They don't want to go to the trouble of training somebody who they've since homesick and trying to get back.
Learn how to sell yourself.
The video also offers advice about phone messages.
And you should keep your messages very simple. You should leave the rap or the jazzy intros out of your voice messaging systems.
They're circulating this video through social service agencies and the World Wide Web, hoping it will help job seekers who came here seeking shelter from a storm. Doug Miller, 11 News.